Rob Lee, and this is not The Truth in This Art, but this is a kind of post-follow-up conversation about the 2022 Baltimore by Baltimore event, sponsored by the fine folks at the Waterfront Partnership. And I'm Rob Lee, and I'm interviewing some of the folks that have been involved with it, from producers to performers to just some of the best and brightest in and around Baltimore. And today, I'm privileged to bring on my man, Larry Whaddup. What it is? It's like you're gonna pop up twice in like a week. So I want to start off with, I got 5 questions, and you see I have my Oprah level note cards, right?
I see.
So the first question I got for you is we want to talk about impact and things of that nature. So could you introduce yourself and how you became involved with Baltimore by Baltimore?
All right, my name is Larry Whaddup Caudle. So basically, I came down to support Black Star for the first show.
Yeah.
About 5 minutes before it was time to go on set, Black Star asked me, he said, you mind going on stage with me? I'm like, all right, cool. Went on stage, and of course the energy that I possessed, of course you just can't hold it when you start playing Baltimore Club and everything. And I did the show with him. Yeah. Leanna, Mel, and all of them. They're like, wow, who's this? You know, this, it set the standard.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to have you back. You know, I was able to help my girlfriend. She has a candle company. Yeah. I was able to get her on that following, I think that was June, so I got her in July. Yeah. And then I was just building a relationship with them, and then they was like, you know what, we want you for the November show. Yeah. And I came in on the November show.
So how did you first become aware? Was it through Black Star? Was it? Tell me about that. How and when did you first become aware?
I came aware when I got there. I didn't know nothing about it.
Like, what's this happening?
Yeah, like Black was like, yo, I'm DJing down at Harbor. I'm like, all right, cool. Me and my brother Beans was like, all right, we're gonna come down and show some support. Yeah. I literally was standing in the back of the stage. He had 5 minutes before he was going on. And he was like, yo, can you go on for me? Yeah. Gave me the mic. And
I mean, that's kind of what my experience was, hopping on stage, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. It was just like, your friend was like, yo, you up? I was like,
oh, yeah.
I was like, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Right, but you had something.
I thugged it. I thugged it out. Right. I mean, I'm a professional. What can I say?
Exactly.
So, Baltimore by Baltimore is a free celebration of music, makers, and munchies. We got the grub there. Right. Which vendors, artists, and food left a memory for you? Because I mean, you remember from me. I mean, you were everywhere.
Yeah.
So shout out to you. Definitely keeping the energy popping. Yeah.
Of course, Perfectly Lit Candle Co. with cupcake.
Obviously.
The cupcake candles. You know what I mean? But it was just cool to see. Like, there was one guy out there. He had a coloring book that he did about certain locals in Baltimore. That was really cool. Black brother. And then, you know, one of the most fun day for me was, there was a young lady, her mom runs some programs in the county. Yeah. And I could see this young girl standing to the side as if she wanted to dance. Yeah. Right? And I went over to her and said, why are you not dancing? And she was really, really shy. Yeah. And I went straight to her. I said, listen, don't ever not do what you love to do. I don't care if it's 1,000 people, one person. Do it. Yeah. As if I was like her father or something. I turned around. 5 minutes later, this little girl dancing. She would not stop dancing for the entire time. I love it. They got it posted on all the pages, Baltimore by Baltimore, everything. But it was cool to kind of like bring that out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Out of her, because that's basically what I do. I find talent. I can see talent easily, and I saw that in her. And her mom was like, wow. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, wow.
So how well does Baltimore by Baltimore represent the arts and culture of Baltimore? Because that's the thing, like in that title. That title is intentional.
Right. I think for what I've seen this past season, and this was the first one, I think they accomplished a good goal. It was inclusive of the community, vendors, food, makers, DJs, artists. I mean, it was inclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wrote down on one of the papers that eventually I would like to see it. Like, say for instance, Well, we currently have the Baltimore by Baltimore, so that's during the daytime.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime, it transforms over to Pier 6.
That'll be
where
fire.
we bring in a big act, and then a couple of the acts over here get to open up for those big acts. Right? You know what I'm saying? But make it big.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think it could be a full vibe, where we get to that point, because there are 6 months, so there's that sort of 2 that are in the early fall or what have you. That last one, you can make it a homecoming thing with a really big person. That's the hook.
Exactly, that's a big hook,
So here's the last question I got for you.
Okay.
Overall, what is one thing that really stood out for you from Baltimore by Baltimore?
The one thing that stood out, I'm gonna be honest, one things that stood out is the people behind the scenes running it. Like the Mels, the Terrells, the Leannas. You know what I'm saying? Like, they me. You know what I'm saying? They down to earth. Like, after I had that one encounter with them, I started saying them all over, and then I worked with Leanna's husband, on some movie stuff. I think just having them as the front people, just knowing their spirits and understanding who they are, I think that's going to keep this thing going. It's going to keep it pushing.
That's good. Well, that's pretty much all the questions that I got for you. Thank you for coming over and sharing your experience. Appreciate you.
Already, Rob.
Yeah. And we're back. I am Rob Lee once again, and I have a brand new guest for this sort of post Baltimore by Baltimore chat. So I want to start off with the introductory question. Could you introduce yourself and how you were involved with Baltimore by Baltimore?
Not a problem. Joanna Skinnahay. I greet you in my tribal language, which is Skarure. I'm an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and I'm also a Tuscarora. My name is Keith Colston. My tribal name is Asolte. And being involved with Baltimore by Baltimore came through Leanna and the opportunity to showcase our culture to Baltimore City, and anybody and everybody that was coming through that day.
That is amazing. Thank you. So the second question I have, because I'll say for me, when I got invited, it was at one of my movie nights, and Terrell was like, "Yeah, you want to come to Baltimore by Baltimore?" And I was aware of it beforehand, but that was the first time that I was like, "Oh, I'm aware of it in this sort of context." So when did you first become aware of Baltimore by Baltimore?
So I became aware of it through Leanna. I know I had met her previously, and she was saying how they were going to create a series of events that showcased, Baltimoreans, the artistic side, the cultural side, and I was like, tell me more, and please let me know if I can be a part of that. So she did have an opening because it was a series, and she was like, well, what month do you think you could, maybe, if this works out, come and be a part of it? I said, well, August would be a great time. She goes, it's kind of hot. I was like, well, being native and going and having powwows, whether it's inside or outside, we're used to it. So that wasn't going to, steer me away whatsoever. And I said, well, if I could go for August 6th actually was my birthday, and that was going to make it even more special. So if I could be working on my birthday, servicing people in Baltimore and doing it on behalf of my own people. And then the second part about that was, instead of just showcasing my own people, why can't we showcase all or as many ethnicities as possible and have a commonality that we're showcasing? So for me, it was like music. What brings people together? Music and food. What do we all have in common when it comes to music? Drums. So for me, it was like, okay, who can we reach out to who's willing to come and be a part of this, and that we can, provide something back to them and make this happen, and where people won't see, oh, those are the natives, and then the next series, oh, this is so and so.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be like, oh wow, man, it's like all these different ethnicities together, and when I say different, I like to use the word unique.
Yeah.
All of these unique ethnicities doing something that they have so much in common with that people probably didn't even think about before. That was the goal. So yeah.
That sounds amazing. I think it leads to that sort of exchange and that kind of cross-cultural. It's like, you're over here, I'm over here, and now we're meeting in the middle.
Yeah. That's it.
So Baltimore by Baltimore is a free celebration, and touching on the music, touching on the food, touching on the makers. Which vendors, artists, and food left a memory for you?
We had those who were like Christine, a woman by the name of Christine Duckworth, who was Lumbee, grew up right here in Baltimore City. Her artistic work I really appreciate it because I've seen where it started and then where it elevated to. And then I think about Sherry Ayers, who is she does a lot of desserts and delicatessens in that fashion. And to have Native people doing that versus that maybe stereotypical idea of other individuals doing that. And so, she was able to provide that, and she does that as well in other places. But to bring the materialistic aspect and then the food aspect to a situation that is not normally thought of and connected to Indian people, that's what stood out to me, those two. And then I wanted to bring to light just talking with you. I mean, right off the bat. We had those vendors that were there that were young entrepreneurs. Yeah. And that is key amongst any group of people. To have our young people want to be successful, want to have their own businesses, and having a starting point, and then having a venue for not just their own people to see it, but for everybody to see it. So I would have to say right off the bat, just standing here with you, those three things, or those three entities. I am terrible with names, even though I gave those two names out, but I wish I could remember everybody else's name. But yeah, they've stood out to me.
And I think it's a good time where we're able to do it, that it's some time removed while you're able to digest it and kind of consume the full thing, but close enough that you don't forget everything. Yeah, right? So, how well does Baltimore by Baltimore represent the arts and culture of Baltimore, and seeing in terms of like representation, in terms of the type of programming and such? Because I think that name, I have a background in marketing, right? I think that name, Baltimore by Baltimore, is very intentional.
I agree, and hopefully it was intentional. I hope everybody puts thought into everything that they do when you're talking about doing a series like what they put together. When we first heard about it, it was the specificity was it was about Baltimoreans. It was about people living right here in Baltimore City. It was about and then branching out a bit to the Baltimore metropolitan area. Yeah. I enjoy the word Baltimore by Baltimore. I really appreciate that term. And for me, words are powerful. When people start using words in the wrong context or for their own personal agenda, it catches me. It makes me raise an eyebrow. So I'm mindful. I like to take a step back and really ponder. Why is it that you're saying what you're saying, and why are you using the words that you're using? So I like the term Baltimore by Baltimore. I think it speaks volume. Do I feel like it represents the artistic side and the artistic aspects of people that I saw from July, because I attended that one. Yep. Then mine, of course, is July 6th, and then being with Terrell, which cool dude. This guy is so down to earth, but he's got it together, and I really appreciate that about a fellow person or a fellow producer. And I just can't wait to see what perhaps the future holds, whether it's 2023 or if it takes longer, or if we can get this kicking again. What we can learn from this series that's going to make the next series even better.
Yeah, and I think having, people who are hungry, people who kind of fall into those, you're not usually invited to the sort of shindig, to the table. There are new ideas that come out of it. And, someone like me, and as I was, describing to you earlier, how many people I've interviewed. So that's people that potentially...
500, right?
Yeah.
500 episodes.
Yeah, 500 episodes. So that's potentially people at the disposal that can reach out to, like, hey, would you guys be interested in doing this? And it can grow. But I think in some instances where people cut that off, you're missing out. You're missing out on so many rich conversations and opportunities.
Yes, sir.
So here's the last question I got for you.
All right.
Overall, what is that one thing that really stood out for you in Baltimore by Baltimore?
Right off the bat, the diversity of people that were enjoying what they were a part of. Yeah. From, again, July to the August, and I hate that I missed out on the other ones, but to the final one that Terrell did, to sit, first of all, be part of it on the stage, and then to be in the crowd and checking out what everybody else was doing on stage, to just sit there and see people, thoroughly enjoying what they were doing and what they were part of. I sat with someone who was with the fire department. He was working the event, and I'm a guy. I like cigars, and I feel like I have a connection to tobacco because tobacco is a sacred item to us. It's a sacred item to people who are a part of that culture. And it was so cool just to be able to sit there with a man that I had never met before, give him a cigar, First of all, because I feel like he's earned it for what he does in his job, you know. And, African-American male, Native American male, sitting and watching young people up on the stage and artistic people doing their thing and everybody enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know, all ethnicities enjoying it. And I'm just one of those guys where, yeah, I'm a person of color, but I tell people all the time, we're all people of culture. You know, if we can just see what we got more in common than what people want to see that makes us different. And I tell people all the time, I told people today, diversity is beautiful.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't divide us.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't divide us. So yeah, man, it was that right off the bat, everybody was enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well said, and that's all the questions I have for you. So thank you for joining this sort of like micro interview. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, bro.
So we're back, Rob Lee once again, and I have a few guests. And I want to just start off with the introductory sort of question. Could you introduce yourself and how you became involved with Baltimore by Baltimore?
We are Media Rhythm Institute, right? You got Jimmy Thomas, Deverick Murray, and Tiffany Welch here. And we're introduced to Baltimore by Baltimore because we are just fans of Baltimore. So we've had a pulse to the street of what's going on arts and culture-wise in Baltimore. And we were really lucky to be a part of the skate park opening, the ice rink last year, and bringing our artists and our collective down to kind of immerse harbor culture in Baltimore music and media. And so I think it was a natural fit for them to ask us to take part in the Baltimore by Baltimore event series. And then we were kind of like, hey, can we take the Labor Day one? Knowing it's a big event, and we wanted to kind of explode that, you know, and bring in not only local artists, but local national artists as well to really make it, you know, exciting.
It's funny that of the two series of guests that I've had on, they've both been either podcasts that have happened with Dev or podcasts that's coming up with Larry. He's like, yo, when is my interview happening? So it's coming out soon. And thank you for sharing that. And I got a couple more questions I want to ask.
Hey, our interview was lit, by the way. My family, everybody who listens.
But it makes sense, right? Like truth and art, and then it's arts and culture. Like, why wouldn't we?
This is true. So, how did you first hear about Baltimore by Baltimore? Was it through like the social media channels? Was it through like a connection, someone reached out? Like Terrell just left, he reached out to me. He was like, yo, bro, I know I'm at your movie night. You trying to come to Baltimore by Baltimore? I was like, sure. So how did you first become aware of it?
So, as Tiff mentioned, we brought our young people out to dance at the skate park opening, and then we had a DJing series, a DJ and skate night down at the skating rink. And so, and I work with Leanna doing that work. She was like, hey, well, listen, I love all the work that we've done together previously. We want you to come on and see what we could do for this Baltimore by Baltimore event. Told us what it was about, asked us if we'd be interested in being producers. We couldn't deny that. That's what we do. Absolutely.
Love to hear that. So Baltimore by Baltimore is a free celebration. Music, makers. They say munchies. I don't like munchies. Yeah, it's food. It's food. Which like vendors, artists, or food really like kind of like left a memory for you? Was there something that you ate like, okay, that was fire, that slapped, or was there a performance that really stuck out? I know I was joking with Larry earlier. I was like, you were the guy. Like you were everywhere, my guy. You popped over there and talked to me. You were over there, left or right, just a ball of energy. But what stuck out for you?
Oh, that's a hard question.
This is what I'm here, the hard questions.
Yeah, let me think on it. Go ahead, Dad.
So I had some slamming juice from Ari Waters. That was off the chain at the Labor Day weekend joint. And then Sharif and Bullhead. What's the Bullhead official's name?
Bullhead Pit Beef.
Bullhead Pit Beef. They had the sandwiches, and I said sandwiches. And then we had some good wraps, and we were getting them for our staff during the Labor Day one. And we had to probably buy like 4 or 5 trays because everybody couldn't stop eating them, so that was lovely. And then we really did, had a good time with Baltimore City Public School System, bringing out so many resources for the kids. And so I think between the juices, the food, and then just the resources that we had for everybody, that was really what caught me the best.
Yeah. You know how you work an event and you can't really enjoy it? So I had a little was it a snack pack to go of a little bit of Sharif's and Codetta Bake Shop, right?
Yeah.
We worked closely with them, and I knew they were going to sell out because that's what they do. So between Miss Cook Therapy and Codetta's, I had a sweet tooth. You know, I enjoyed it, and it's good because, you know, they're not stationary down the harbor, so it's really good to have that like mixture and that variety down there. So I took a little bit of everything home, and I hope to see them again in this area.
That's great. So let's see. I think this is the arts and culture question, right? How well does Baltimore by Baltimore represent arts and culture for Baltimore? Because, I mean, it's in the title. It's Baltimore by Baltimore. I think that's intentional. So how well does, like, the events, the 6 that were happening and the ones that you've gone to, how well does it represent, like, Baltimore in terms of arts and culture?
10s across the board. 10s across the board. I've never really been able to go to a running series where I see people who I get to see sporadically at Artscapes, at AFRAs, but I got to see them, you know, first Saturday every month for, 6-7 months, hip hop, you know, Native American drumming, African drumming, Baltimore club culture. Like, that's just not a thing at the Inner Harbor, and it is now. And so not only just the music, the media, but like the makers too, right? They don't necessarily have storefronts and kiosks down here, but the presence was felt. It was so much Baltimore love. Like, people are still hitting us from September. Like, when is this happening again? When is the next one? It was such a good vibe from, and we know what's going on downtown, right? We're not blind to it. So it's not always the most positive reputation, but for these events, man, it was all love. There was no fights. There was nothing going on. So I don't know. That was the purpose of it. It was definitely a Baltimore love thing, but you could feel it. Like, even when we kind of debriefed with our team, it was like, did you have like a good time? And you know, when you work events, you can't think about that. Like, we had a good time. Like, the vibe is still up.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was just people just getting together, and I dug that, and you know, which doesn't fall into my whole thing where I was just like, yo, Rob, get on stage, you got some things to say. I was like, no, I don't, but I did it, and it felt really cool to kind of be in that vibe and feel like safe and all of that good stuff. So here's the last question. Mm-hmm. Overall, what was the one thing, like, overall that really stood out? So
we just had one of our planners who took part in Media Rhythm Institute's series, the Haas crew. This is G. She was invaluable part of putting this together. And so I'm actually going to let you answer that question. Can you ask it one more time?
Yeah, sure. Passing the mic. Overall, what's one thing that really stood out for you from Baltimore by Baltimore?
I would say the community aspect of it. It was just great seeing so many different pieces come together to create this whole, and just pretty much everyone align with the common goal of just uniting Baltimore, showing people what Baltimore's made of, from the tastemakers to small businesses. The community aspect of it is probably what stood out the most, and just to see, you know, what happens next year and how we continue to grow that and do more for the city and continue to put Baltimore in the forefront. So,
thank you. Well, that's pretty much it. So I want to thank Media Rhythm Institute. I guess you guys can go get dinner, I guess?
We appreciate you as always.
Well, thank you.
Hey, and make sure that everybody go out and check our contest together.
Yes.
Rob Lee is helping us give away package. So for all our new and upcoming podcasters, he's going to give you 3 30-minute consultations, and we're going to give away up to $1,000 worth of equipment so that somebody can have this dream that you're living right now on the 27th
So go
floor.
follow Truth in Art.
Yeah, Truth in This Art.
Truth in This Art and MRI Programs, and make sure we will be announcing on November 30th who's going to get that amazing package.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.